Hi, everybody. I'm Rick Thompson, the Executive Director, and I was asked to read a letter about Harvey Billadeau from a close friend, Don Schwalbe. Goes like this. I'm writing in regards to Harvey Billadeau's nomination to the North Dakota Cowboy Hall of Fame. I've always known Harvey as a true competitor, friend, and neighbor for over 40 years and feel he would be a great selection for the Hall. Harvey was a great timed event cowboy. He didn't just enter all three events, he won state titles in all three. He has represented North Dakota well in the Badlands Circuit and at big rodeos all across the country. Harvey's strongest event was the calf roping. In his prime, he could have a calf strung almost by the time he hit the ground. Harvey was a natural athlete which played a big part in his success, but he also worked hard to be a good horseman. Harvey always rode good horses. They scored well and worked good in the field. He knew how to train them, ride them, and keeping them working. Harvey is one of those guys who has the ability to watch a run and then knows how to fix it. From the horse to the swing to the delivery, he analyzes it all. He is an excellent coach and has offered advice to lots of cowboys and has helped many kids across the country get a start in rodeo, including both of his children who were champions right behind him. Harvey didn't rodeo much in the early 80s. He always competed to be the best, and when he made the decision to focus on the family farm, he didn't feel that he had time to put in to be the best or the top of the game. When he started the rodeo again, though, in the late 80s, he did it as a family affair to get his kids started. His wife, Cynthia, always made sure to have a couple of coolers packed full of food, and we enjoyed the weekend with our families. Harvey and Cynthia were always gracious hosts to make cowboys needing a place to stay and treated everyone like family. Harvey was an honest competitor, was always willing to help a fellow cowboy out, and was good to travel with, always paying more than his fair share. Harvey has always tried to better the sport of rodeo. He served the boards of the NDRA and the ROUGHRIDER Rodeo Association throughout his career, and also served on the high school rodeo board when his children were competing. When there was a need for more timed event stock, he provided cattle for the amateur associations. Harvey has been a long-time award sponsor, continuing to support his sport. Harvey Billadeau would be an excellent addition to the North Dakota Cowboy Hall of Fame. Signed, Don Schwalbe.
Well, good afternoon. I would like to add my support for Harvey Billadeau as a candidate for the North Dakota Hall of Fame. I'd like to talk about his qualities. And once you lead through that, you can find out he'd be a great candidate at that point. Once you meet Harvey, you find him a friend for life. I call Harvey my best friend. I've known Harvey for almost 60 years. We entered grade school together. We had our playground confrontations. We got into high school athletics and all those things that were really important in school activities. Harvey still holds, he was quite a track man in high school, in both in the sprints and hurdles, and it's been 40-some years, and he still holds the 100-yard dash record at Parshall High School. Harvey and his wife Cynthia have been married for 43 years. They got two great children, Jessica and Preston. And with their families all coming together, they run a very successful farming and cattle operation in the Parshall Robb area. They represent now 5 generations of Billadeau's farming and ranching. Harvey doesn't forget about his community, his classmates, his friends, and his neighbors. If they're not talking to him, Harvey's giving him a call. I don't know what his cell phone bill is like, but I know it's high. He remains active in the community, not only a member of the Bethesda Lutheran Church in Robb, but also the First Lutheran Church in Parshall, where he finds time to be on the church council, coach Pee Wee basketball, organize and build an outdoor riding arena in Parshall. He's always willing to contribute his time. He never says no to a worthwhile cause when they ask for a charitable donation. Harvey has his own farm rescue, where he's helped many neighbors put their crop in, harvest, cut hay, bale, put up a corral, work their cattle whenever there's been a need for that type of assistance. Unless you know Harvey personally, you wouldn't know his accomplishments, whether it's on the rodeo circuit, high school sports, or community activities. He's not one to boast or brag, criticize or condemn. If you entered his home for the first time, you would think he was just a collector of saddles and buckles. But it gives me great pleasure to support Harvey as a candidate for North Dakota Hall of Fame, and I only can encourage all of you to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Just so we got it on tape, introduce yourself.
I'm Kent Nonstead from Parshall. Thank you.
I'm Preston. I'm Harvey's son, for people that don't know. I just want to talk about my dad's rodeo career that I know of, I guess. My dad's accomplishments speak for themselves. And honestly, I can't talk a lot about his rodeo career in its prime because I wasn't born yet. But I do remember when my sister and I got to start tagging along with Dad to go rope. He'd always saddle our horses first, and then we'd go ride around the arena, and then he'd get his stuff ready. Then we'd head to the arena and he'd start practicing, but and this is hard to believe, but at that time I was not big enough to run the chute. So Harvey had to run the chute, and he'd load the calves, and then he'd go rope. He'd untie his own calf. He'd load the chute again. But my sister and I, we still thought we were lots of help. But I was 8 years old when my dad won his last NDRA championship, which is in 1991. He could have won he could have kept going and won more, but after that he decided it was time for my sister and me. We went to a lot of Rough Rider rodeos as a family. Dad entered the senior events, and Jessica and I entered the junior events. And oftentimes we were there all day because at that time Harvey and I mixed team roped, and that was only in the slack, and then he roped calves in the performance. So that made it so we didn't go to as many rodeos in a weekend, and it made it a little tougher to enter. My dad always rode good horses, and he always made sure my sister and I had good horses. He bought some, but several of them he trained, and he was always getting the next one ready for my sister and I. During the rodeo season, my dad invested a lot of time in our practice, but he also spent a lot of time helping others, making sure people in the area had a place to rope and if they needed help. And at this time, that was always the rodeo season and the farming season kind of go hand in hand, and he always made time for us to practice and while running and growing a successful farm. He was very instrumental in the local and youth roping club. Every Monday night we had a youth series. He judged all events and offered help to any who needed, in the dummy roping and the barrel racing. Then on Thursdays they had a roping club, and he and his brothers provided all the cattle for that, and they took steers in and they had a roping night. 1 or 2 nights a week we always had an arena full of neighbors at our house to rope. We'd rope calves and steers, and in between the kids would set up the barrels and poles. He always had plenty of livestock and enjoyed hosting anyone who wanted to come and rope. And I also remember him and my uncles, they did some stock contracting and worked hard to have good cattle. I was fortunate enough to have a pretty successful rodeo career, and I owe all that success to my dad. He taught me everything I know about roping, being a champion, and that goes from scoring, riding a horse to be mentally prepared. He covered it all. He broke down every fundamental of roping a steer or a calf and tying. He spent a lot of time watching us rope the dummy or tie from the post. If I needed help on the road, he was always a phone call away. He could usually help without even being there. Growing up, I knew my dad was a good cowboy, but as a kid, I did not realize how lucky I was to have him as a coach in everything he taught me. I have the utmost respect for him as his drive and work ethic to be the best and for his constant support and encouragement. And it wasn't just my sister and I that he helped. Dad always welcomed and took time to help anyone who wanted to come and get help with their roping or if they needed help with a horse. To this day, he still enjoys offering or watching and offering advice. When the grandkids go out to the arena, which we do have, there's a few grandkids around there now, 6 girls between my sister and myself. You can see the pickup backing down the driveway as he's coming to watch and cheer them on. Rodeo has always been a major part of my dad's life. He's always tried to give back to rodeo what it has given to him. Even after he quit competing, he stayed very involved in the sport. It doesn't matter if my dad is going to a team roping jackpot, running the chute, helping his grandparents or granddaughters in the arena, or watching a rodeo or sponsoring. He wants to be involved. My dad just loves being a cowboy. This nomination is a great honor for my dad and our family, and I would like to thank you.